And maybe that's one area to go into is when you look at your role, both as a candidate now and if you're elected, what do you see? There's different philosophies when it comes to executive branch. Some executive branch people think that they're just there to wait for the legislature to tell them what to do and implement it as an administrator. And a lot fewer use their position as a bully pulpit to advocate for different things. I'm going to start at the very end here with Devin. And what would you advocate for using the bully pulpit if you're elected?
Well, there's several projects that I would love to help facilitate as using the bully pulpit of the Public Service Commission, within confines of Central Dakota, of course. But I would love to see work with industries to bring nuclear into this state. I know exactly where we could put 2 of them, and we could run the cooling rods, and we wouldn't have to plow some roads for a while because the cooling rods would keep the roads hot. I'd love to see a usage of, and I talked to several legislators about this, using some of the interest money of the legacy fund to upgrade the grid to handle double or triple the base load so that the ratepayers aren't footing the bill for these upgrades to the grid. Now, granted, legacy fund is still your money, but at least if it's the interest, it's not like I'm pulling it out of your pocket every month or asking for another rate increase, like those of you on Excel or Ottertail, who's seen some pretty good ones in the recent past.
Ottertail's in Castleton, by the way.
I got Ottertail down in Enderlin, so. But yeah, I would love to advocate for an expansion of what we have without expanding the footprint of what we already use. So that we're not taking more land from the people as minimally as possible. Use old railroad grades for easements for transmission lines out and see why we don't do that instead. That'd be a perfect use for those. But that's just a little kernel of the things I'd like to see to improve things around the state from the bully pulpit of the Public Service Commission.
So I believe that the bully pulpit is meant to protect the citizens and to push your ideas forward. That's the number one thing you're supposed to do as an elected representative. So you should be a civil servant, right? You should be a citizen servant that serves people first, and that's what you should do. So you take your platform that you ran on the whole time, you don't change it, but then when the people need their voice to be heard, you have to use the pulpit to say that, and that's where the strength is. So that's what I would do, and I'll give you a good example of this. There's probably 1,000 things you guys vote on every year in the Senate. I don't know how many bills you vote on. And cities and counties do hundreds of things, sidewalks and sewers and dogs and cats and all kinds of stuff. But you know what? If your representative in Washington, D.C. doesn't use the bully pulpit to come back here and tell you things, to say, hey, you need to know about this. This is in your interest as North Dakotans because it is national policy affects you, then they fail. So that's what you should do, and you should force those things forward after you talk to the people. And trust me, how many meetings? I don't know, 150 meetings so far, 20,000 miles. It's since January. People tell you what they want. It's really easy. I've got a long list of it. Use the pulpit and get out there and push it forward. And defeat the, how do you say it? I mean, the people that are not supporting the people, that are not represented, that are just sitting there using their office for their own personal gain. That's what the pulpit's meant for. And if you look back historically, that's how it's been used the best, I think. So it's a great question, and you should have a strong voice. And that strong voice might come from your representative if yours isn't loud enough. You should be able to come to them, and they should be able to shout it from the steps of the Capitol. I said it before, so I'll finish with this. If you walk on the steps of the Capitol as a congressman, you will get a microphone shoved in your face. So why not go do that and say, just for nothing, I want to talk about this today. And you could get real pretty famous for that, but you know what you'd be doing? Putting the voice out of the people. So that's what I think.
Alex and I have both tonight talked about being that voice, being a strong voice. You know, Byron Dorgan, when he ran, anyone remember what his campaign slogan was? It was a strong, clear voice for North Dakota. But before you can make use of that bully pulpit to help North Dakotans, you have to show up for North Dakotans. You have to talk to them, and more importantly, you have to listen to them. Otherwise, you're just telling them what's best for them when you should be finding out what they know is best for them, or at least that they believe is best for them. And I want to use this bully pulpit here right now to talk about something outside of the U.S. House race, and that is Measure 1 on the primary ballot. It's another attempt by the state legislature, which some of the loudest voices in our state legislature about local control also like to write legislation that says political subdivisions shall, or political subdivisions shall not. And now they want to take our voice away from us via initiated measures. They want to make it harder for us to do something that put in a initiated measure that would amend the state constitution. It's worked perfectly fine for a very long time. So, you know, whoever you vote for in the primary, vote against Measure 1 to preserve your own power. And, you know, should I get to DC, I will not be scared to be that person using that platform. But I'll come back here and listen to you first. Thanks.
Well, as I said, this is the third of these types of meetings that we've had surrounding these issues. And what I would like to do as a bully pulpit is invite every one of those organizers and every one of those people that attend those meetings to attend the legislative hearing where the PSC is requesting authority to be able to give them the power back to their local officials. And that's what happened in Edgeley. They had a local legislator who introduced a bill that bypassed the local authority to zone or permit for a power line. That is what happened. That's why they're angry. One of the reasons why they're angry, because they didn't know about it, first of all. And second of all, their land is being subject to eminent domain. I mean, if you go down to Edgeley, all along Highway 281, it's no eminent domain for corporate gain, no eminent domain for corporate gain. So that's what we're all about. I would use that bully pulpit, and if the legislature still doesn't listen, then I would definitely pack the hearing room from the PSC when the issues come up, that all of these landowners would know what the agenda is and whether, and that they would be invited to weigh in. Thank you.
So, to answer Alex's question, it was over 900 bills this last legislative session in 8 days. That's a lot of bills. Yeah. We also had a lot of duplication too, because we don't have very good transparency in our legislature on what bills are being presented, and everybody gets a hearing, and that's where our legislature works. What I would do as Secretary of State, and there's two things that I want to do that I want to advocate for as Secretary of State and I want to push for in our legislature. One is we need stronger campaign finance laws. So we need to make sure that we have more transparency, and we need to have more teeth in the fines and administering and actually execution of those fines to ensure people actually pay those fines, because we still don't have enough teeth in those laws, and we need to advocate for that. The second aspect of that is, as we have seen across the state, we have gerrymandering across the country. North Dakota doesn't have to worry about it at the congressional level, but we do have to worry about it at the state level. We still have a contentious district up in District 9 and 15, where we're not sure, especially now with the new Supreme Court decision on voting rights, is going to make that into selection. What I would advocate for is that we have a nonpartisan commission created to make sure that they do the lines instead of having the legislature. It's time that we stop letting legislators and letting politicians choose you as their representative, because you should be choosing us, and that should stop right now. So those are the two things that I would advocate for as Secretary of State, and I would put the full force of the Secretary of State's office to make sure that happens in the legislature.
Thanks for the question. I'm not sure,
what amount of influence we have, on the bully pulpit, as state officials. But there are a couple things that within the Office of Attorney General, I think I could initiate and implement, and that is a review of the criminal justice system. We really need to take a look at why we're overcrowding our prisons and correctional facilities to the extent that it's costing taxpayers a ton of money. And what I would advocate is we take a look at repeat offenders, why that category is so high, and what we can do to reduce it. In addition to that, category of mental health and how that affects our criminal justice system. How many prisoners or people that are incarcerated you just have a mental health issue? That's probably pretty significant. And what I'd like to do is put together a task force that takes a look at this issue, and it would be made up of state's attorneys, defense attorneys, judges, correctional facility supervisors, and other experts and noted citizens to take a close look at what we can do to really make a model system for the country. I think we could do it here in North Dakota and make it very effective and efficient. So I think that's a big ticket item, and it really has a big impact, not just I think just as a state, and we're expanding all the correctional facilities and the prison, and we could put a halt to that. And again, I want to apologize for sitting down, but I'm kind of used to being at school board meetings, which I was a member of for 15 years, and we sat down, talked to the audience and so forth. So yeah, I'll continue to sing. I think that's a good idea.
Well, I'll stand up, because I will stand up for the farmers as a bully. This is the bully pulpit, right? I'll stand up for farmers. I'll stand up for ranchers. I'll stand up for consumers, because we're getting the shaft right now with the elected officials that we have in Bismarck. And that's why all of us are here to make change. The second thing that I would advocate for is a permanent farm bill. I'm in the process of getting in contact with other agriculture commissioners from other states. And I don't have to even be an ag commissioner, but I'm ready to buy a ticket and go to Washington, D.C. and say, what the hell's wrong with you guys? How much time do you need to get a farm bill? North Dakota is an ag state, and we need to have a permanent farm bill with some safety net, some features in it. Third thing, we're working on a beef packing plant for North Dakota, a cooperative.
No Argentina.
Yeah, no Argentina, that's right. I mean, we got the best quality beef in the country right here in North Dakota. And you know what's happening? We are shipping 90% of our cattle somewhere else out of state, and we're paying for the consumers are paying for the transportation to go there. You, the consumers, are paying for that big packing company. There's a big four of them that doing 85% of the beef packing, or beef slaughterhouses. You're paying for them to box that food back up, and you're paying for the transportation to come back here. I've calculated that we're losing value-added revenue for North Dakota somewhere between $500 million and $1.2 billion a year. That's crazy. Why not do it right here? And I don't have much time, but I got a lot more. I'm also promoting, I'm gonna stand up and say we need North Dakota beef for North Dakota kids. We raise
We have 1.73 million cattle and cows and calves in the state of North Dakota. And the kids that are in school, they just got out of school, but the fact is they got some crappy food that might be from Argentina. And if you care about your kids, we want to have them to eat healthy beef right here in North Dakota produced. And I got a lot more, but I better slow down.
Thank you. Well, what I would do, hopefully when I get to Congress, I would turn around and look back at this state. We have seniors living on a fixed income, $1,200, maybe $1,400 a month. They may get rental assistance, but maybe they still have to pay $400 to $500. Elderly people or disabled people are rationing their medications because they have to afford food, fuel, all these things, and then we send kids to school perhaps hungry, and what's going to happen with that? Can't we have enough money to feed our children, the next generation that's coming up behind us, and then the one that's ahead of us? How are they living? I live in an over 55 area in Jamestown, and these people have nothing. And our rent, there's a monopoly, I'm pretty certain, of the rent. They keep raising rent, and they don't really care if it's non-smoking and people smoke or not. There's a lot of trouble out there, but I support families, I support farmers. In the wealthiest country on the planet, why do we have kids hungry? It's unbelievable. And the nursing profession, and as a nurse, was downgraded to a non-profession. And that's a sad statement. We have, in 2030, we'll have 200,000 short nurses in this country and 500,000 doctors. So we have lots to do. Thank you so much.
I certainly agree hunger is a moral failing in a society as productive and wealthy as we are. I'm taking a seat on the Public Service Commission, so from the standpoint of the Public Service Commissions in Pulpit, my fellow candidates here, Scott and Devin, have both spoken separately about what I believe is House Bill 1258, which said that local property rights do not need to be respected for the lines that we're going through. And so I would certainly agree with them for advocating of the repeal of that bill. And similarly, with some of these projects that have been developed, and I've mentioned this before, non-disclosure agreements. I think it should be illegal for a government entity to be entering into a non-disclosure agreement with a private individual or private corporation. If individuals want to do that between each other, that's their right, but the public, whether or not it's the Public Service Commission, any government entity, right, should not be in the normal business of engaging in secret deals. And then my third point that I would seek to advocate for, you can see related to the other two, and that is for an ethics commission that has teeth and that can enforce prosecution against corruption conducted by government officials and interactions between government officials and private companies. So I would advocate against non-disclosure agreements. I would advocate for local communities having rights to regulate pipelines, transmission lines that come in, and to combine them together, an ethics commission that has teeth.
Well, I love the tax thing. One of the things in our pesky state constitution, it says all the schools in North Dakota will be financed equally. We are so far away from doing that, we should all be in prison probably. I think, well, it all depends, it's overall reliance on property taxes, and our legislature, our supermajority, they always want to say they cut our taxes, even if it's like they shaved off 0.25% on the income tax in the state. Okay, they love the headline. So I think the discrepancy, it goes from about 20,000 per student of support in some schools all the way down to about 6,000. So that's something. You know, I'm not just going to sit in the office and ignore all these problems. Things have built up to where a person can really make a noise here. And one thing, I believe the way our state legislature has treated us citizens like we're dumb for a long time. I don't think we're dumb. I think we're smart. And I think we're tired of it. You know, initiative manager comes along. Oh, North Dakota should have an ethics commission. What does the supermajority do? Cut the funding. Well, why would they do that? Just take a second to think about that. And so, you know, it's like, oh, we've got billions of dollars in the state budget, so we can't find $12 million to feed all the children in school. There's no future with these people because children are the future and they just don't learn when they're hungry. So what happened? People went out and got the signatures. Feeding school children, it's on the ballot. And so they're going to try to make the initiative measure as hard, as difficult as possible. They just don't want the public interfering in their business. This is wrong. We can go a long ways to fixing that in this election. Thank you.